So, good afternoon to all of you. And in the last lecture, we have seen different quality aspects and yield, productivity of organic farming, etc. And we have seen what are the major pillars or components of organic farming, organic standard, certification, uh, technology package, and marketing. So today we will discuss primarily certification and marketing. Both will be in brief, and then we will also see what is the scope and opportunities of organic farming in India and what are the constraints. So these are the parts of this lecture where you will understand the meaning, purpose, and processes of organic product certification. What does it mean? What is the objective? And how it is done, certification. Then we will learn it is not lean, it is learn the scope, opportunities, and constraints of organic farming in India. And of course, finally, we will see marketing network of organic products, how people market organic products. Now, if we start with certification, so it can be defined as a procedure by which the accredited certification body, by way of a scope certificate, assures that the production or processing system of the operator has been methodically assessed and conforms to the specified requirements as envisaged in the NPOP. So this is quite complicated definition. I will try to explain it to you. I think you know NPOP, National Program on Organic Production. So it has already made certain standard, which are specified requirements as envisaged in the envisaged means as there is provision in the National Program on Organic Production. So NPOP has already developed the specific requirement in the standards, organic standards. It is the meaning of the last line. We start with the first line, procedure by which the accredited certification body. Now we need to understand what is accredited certification body. It means the NPOP under the National Program on Organic Production. This authority NPOP will uh, deliver or will offer or will outsource, you can say outsource certain companies the job of certification. Means certification function or process is given to a private body or any government body, and the process is known as accreditation. Accreditation means authorization. You are authorizing another government body or private body to do the job of certification. So accreditation means by following certain rules, guidelines, a particular company or group of company is authorized to conduct or to do certification. That is your accredited certification body. By way of a scope certificate, certificate is issued under NPOP that what will be the scope of this program. Production or processing. There are two kind of products. Some products are raw products, which are directly produced or primary product. And from primary product or main product, you can make secondary product after processing. So in processing also are a kind of production, a kind of production of new products. So production and processing, under both these processes, the operator or the person who is doing it has followed or is conforming to the certain specific requirement. Means whatever he is doing in the process of production, the practices he is doing in the process of production or materials he is using in processing, they need to conform to the specified requirement. And the whole process is known as certification. Means it is just you are giving a certificate. You will simply give a certificate on a paper, or maybe even now these days you can give them in PDF file or picture file. You will give one kind of certificate where you will say that this particular product or processed product has been produced under as per the standards laid down in the National Program on Organic Production, laid down by National Program on Organic Production. So this is certification. So do you have any confusion, any question at this stage? You got certification,
No, sir.
the meaning of certification. Okay, all the steps in food production or processing to packaging or up to storage are certified. Means in the beginning you will do food production, any kind of production, agricultural production, animal production. In this also it is to be certified. Or even if you are doing processing, if you are converting raw product into finished products or useful product, then also certain standards are there for processing. And then packaging, for packaging also standards are there, that you can use this kind of material, you cannot use this kind of material for packaging, what will be the size of packaging and so on. So these are already defined things. And storage are certified. Storage means what should be the conditions of the storage, how long a particular product can be stored, what should be the expiry date of that particular product. All kind of standards are there, so which needs to be followed. The requirements for certification may vary from one nation to another nation. That is why now every nation, almost every nation has its own standards. So there may be some variations here and there, depending upon their laws, their requirement, and the materials available. So overall, if we see in India certification, we have two kind of certification. One is third-party certification, and it is being handled or it is being implemented by National Program for Organic Production, NPOP. This NPOP is run by APIDA, you already know it, and it is mandatory. Third-party certification is mandatory for exports. If you want to export to other countries, it is mandatory. Without third-party certification, you cannot export organic products outside India. And voluntary in domestic. If you think that I should go for third-party certification and then I will sell my product in the local market, you are free. You are free to do so. And why it is called third-party certification? Because first party is the farmer. First party is the farmer. Second party is the consumer. Remember, second party is the consumer for whom you are certifying it. And third party is the certification agency who is certifying it. Therefore, it is called as third party certification. Means certification agency is the third party. First party is the farmer, second party is the consumer, and third party is the certification agency. So it is third party certification. There are certain drawbacks and certain advantages of third party certification. Advantage is that you will get India Organic logo. On your right side, you are seeing India Organic logo. So this will be stamped on your products. On your products or on the package of your product, this will be stamped India Organic. And you can export it or you can sell it in the domestic market. But the limitation is that it is very expensive. It costs about 40,000 to 50,000 rupees per acre. So it is very expensive. And what would be the other option? Then Government of India thought, let us start some kind of certification which can be done free of cost. So Government of India started participatory guarantee system. It is a kind of certification system known as PGS India, Participatory Guarantee System India, PGS India, applicable only for domestic but voluntary. So it is not very compulsory for everyone, but it is applicable only for domestic market. If you go for PGS kind of certification, then you cannot export your product. This is the limitation of participatory guarantee system. Participatory guarantee system is started in July 2016. It is started in July 2016. And third-party certification is being looked after by APIDA, and participatory guarantee system is being looked after by or managed by NCOF, National Center of Organic Farming. It is handling or managing the PGS system. Now you see the differences in NPOP and PGS. NPOP certification, this third-party certification, and PGS. So NPOP is based on National Organic Standard. So it is also based on organic standard. Under both cases, you have to follow Indian organic standards. Number two difference, NPOP certification is very exhaustive documentation. You need a lot of documents and third parties verification. PGS is simple documentation and regional council is facilitator. So actually under PGS, if you see the administration of PGS, it starts from the central level. Central level is your National Center of Organic Farming, which is the main center for PGS. And then they have some regional councils, zonal councils, and then village level groups of the farmers. So actually they have divided whole India into different regions and zones and then different blocks. And in blocks, you have farmers growing groups, farmers or growers group. You can call it growers group. I will discuss something in brief, what is PGS, how it is done. Now, procedures are widely accepted. For third-party certification, procedures are widely accepted. Means you can export your product. It is accepted by many countries outside India. But PGS is never accepted widely like your third-party certification. It is cost intensive. Third-party certification under NPOP is cost intensive, more cost. I told you 40 to 50,000 rupees per acre. PGS is low cost or no cost. It is free of charge. Government does not charge any money for this. NPOP is applicable for individuals, grower groups, and processing facilities. However, PGS is applicable only to the grower groups. Single farmer cannot go for PGS because they need a large chunk of land to do this certification. In PGS, what happens? Many farmers pool their land and they who are having adjacent land. It is not that one farmer is having 5 acres in one place and 5 acres in say 2 kilometers away. So that will not work. So it works in clusters. Farmers may need to make some clusters of say 20 acres, 50 acres, like that. And then this certification PGS is done. Now what happens? Now the government thought that let us control the organic products market also, because these certified products were not having any legal control by the government. Okay, I got certificate and I can sell it, but the product quality may not be good. It may not be good quality, or it may not be conforming to the standards, organic standards. So what government did, some regulations came for organic product also. Like other products, common products are also covered by FSSAI, Food Safety and Standard. What is the full form of FSSAI? Food Safety and Standard Authority of India? I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. So this regulates the all kind of food items. So this is official language. I read for you. Any organic food manufactured, packed, sold, offered for sale, marketed, or otherwise distributed in the country is regulated as per the provisions of the Food Safety and Standards Regulation 2017, which were notified on 29/12/2017 and enforced from 1/7/2018. So it has been over 3 years when these regulations were imposed by FSSAI. So what FSSAI doing? These regulations require organic food to comply with the provisions of National Program for Organic Production, or PGS. So whatever you are selling in the market, you cannot sell means but just by labeling or but just by saying this is my organic product, and you can write the name, this is organic, Dinesh Organic, and you cannot sell that unless it is certified by PGS or by NPOP. Once it is certified by either of these, then this FSSAI will give you the license. However, to support a small original organic producer or producer organization, those with annual turnover not exceeding 12 lakhs per annum have been exempted from certification through NPOP or PGS. Means farmers having annual income, annual turnover less than 12 lakhs. For them, it is not applicable. They can sell their product in the market. They are exempted from certification. So what farmers are doing, such farmers who are not going for certification and still like to sell their product. So what they write on their product, organically produced apple, organically produced soybean oil, organically produced vegetable. So they write these kind of things. The organic food covered through these regulations should bear FSSAI logo, organic logo, that is Jaivik Bharat, a logo along with PGS Organic or India Organic logo. So now every organic product will have two logo. One is from certification agency and other is from FSSAI. So for certification agency, I have shown you, if your certification is by third party, you will get India Organic logo plus FSSAI logo. If your product is certified by PGS, then you will get, you see these pictures on the slide, PGS India Green. You will get this or PGS India Organic, one of them. If your product is obtained from the during the conversion period. So initially 3 years time is conversion period where you convert from conventional farming to organic farming. During that time, whatever product is produced can be sold as PGS India Green. It is not organic, PGS India Green. And then once it is organic after 3 years, it can be given logo PGS India Organic. That is the difference. So either of these three logo, one logo, and then one from them. Jaivik Bharat, it is in English. English, it is Jaivik Bharat, or in Hindi also Jaivik Bharat. So one such logo has to be there. And also the license number, FSSL 100, something like this. So it has to be there. And why it is there? The consumer shall look for Food Safety and Standard Authority of India's organic logo, Jaivik Bharat, and FSSAI logo, license number. So two things have to be there. This green one and the license number. Now, first question comes before I go into the details, that what was the purpose of certification? Purpose of certification is to satisfy the consumer, to give guarantee to the consumer that whatever product you are getting is genuinely organic and it has been produced under certain guidelines or certain set standards. So consumer will get confidence, okay, it is certified and somebody is responsible for this, so I can use it without any fear. So this is just to clear the doubts in the mind of consumer. The certification is necessary. Now, general requirement for certification of organic products, very general requirements in production or in processing, etc. The certification requirement vary from country to country, and these certification requirement will vary from the stages also, during production, during storage, processing, packaging, and even shipping. So these are very broad guidelines for certification. Avoidance of synthetic chemical inputs and GMO. They are not allowed. Use of land that has been free from chemicals for number of years. Strict physical separation of organic and non-certified products. So during the certification process, the agency must take care of this, that there should not be any random mixing or forced mixing. There can be different kind of mixing. So mixing should not be there at any cost between organic and non-organic products. In processing, exclusion of all chemicals, irradiation and chemical-driven processes. So these are not permitted in processing, chemicals or irradiation or other chemical-driven processes. Keeping detailed written production and sales record. One has to keep the record, how much was produced. Farmer need to write it because only that amount will be certified. So he cannot add his conventional product into organic product. So it is very, very necessary, and it is job of the certification agency that to verify that so much of vegetable, fruit, this much quantity was produced by this farmer during this season. And now these days, these audit trail are very easy to get. Now every product, organic product in the market, you will find it is having some kind of barcode, some kind of barcode. There are different kind of codes now. These days, one square shape code is coming. What is the name of that code? Square shape, some code. COD, coding system. When you go to a shop, he does not type the name of the item. He will just take the scanner and put, and he will find that barcode. So through that barcode, now every product is part of the TraceNet. TRACENET, TraceNet, HotNet, PeanutNet. There are number of softwares online available where you can easily trace the product, that who produced it, when it was produced, how much it was produced, then how many hands it has passed, and till it is reaching the consumer. So at any stage, you can identify the trail of the product, starting from farmer up to the consumer. So this is done by some softwares like TraceNet. Undergoing periodic on-site inspections. So definitely the certification agency will go to the site or to the production area or to the processing area and verify the facts there. So this was in brief about certification. I may take one full lecture on certification. It was just intro part. Now let us see what is the scope of organic farming in the country and what are the opportunities. So definitely our country is blessed with wide or diverse geography and climatic conditions, great potential to increase area under organic farming, particularly in rain-fed or dryland or hill regions. So we have so much of diversity in the country that, for example, you can grow green peas in these Indo-Gangetic plains or plains of India in winter months, and in summer you can grow peas in hills. In hills you can grow potato or these kind of vegetables in hilly area in the summer season, and in North India you can grow in winter. Similarly, there are areas where you can take 3 crops of rice in 1 year. These are the coastal areas or northeast state and so on. And also sugarcane can be grown round the year in Karnataka. In Karnataka, there is no fixed time of sowing of sugarcane. You can do sowing anytime. Sowing of sugarcane can be done anytime and you can harvest anytime. So what I mean to say, we really have that much of great climatic diversity or climatic conditions. And also there is sufficient opportunities and scope for research in organic farming, extension and education. As I told you that now we will have MSc in organic farming in India now, in state agricultural universities, and also some diploma degrees and so on. Huge potential in export and domestic market of organic product and output. So in this huge potential is there for export, and we need to exploit it. Employment in producing and marketing the organic seed. So a lot of employment opportunities are there for the people for producing the organic seed, organic manures. One can prepare compost, vermicompost that can be sold to organic farmers. Biofertilizers can be produced, and biopesticides or organic pesticide can be produced at village level and by small scale industries and so on. So these kind of opportunities are there. As the area under organic farming is expected to increase, then the demand for input will also increase. And once the demand for input is increased, area is increased, you will get higher production, you will get more production. Once you get higher production, more production, then you will get opportunities for marketing, or people will consume your products. Now, if we restrict just for the job opportunities, so I've just told you that we have diverse geography and climatic conditions. We have rain-fed, dryland, irrigated areas, and some of the rain-fed and dryland area are organic by default. I will show you after a few slides. But under these conditions, we use very less quantity of pesticide and less quantity of chemical fertilizer. So they are very close to organic farming, and these lands respond very well to organic management because reduction in yield is not more than 10%. If you convert or rain-fed or dryland areas to organic, the reduction in yield is just 10%, not more than that. So here great potential exists. And there the farmers can involve themselves in the organic farming. That way they can get the job. A huge potential seen in export marketing of organic inputs and outputs. So inputs are your biopesticides, biofertilizers, seed, manures. These are the inputs, and organic inputs can be produced at village level and they can be sold. Similarly, organic products can be marketed. Marketing, you get opportunity. Local demand for organic food is also growing in the country. Now people prefer organic products these days. Those who can afford, they are preferring it. Recently, we got COVID situation, and many doctors prescribed you go for organic food because they are rich in antioxidants and good for health. And employment can also be achieved through organic seed production. We do not have single shop or single company which is selling organic seeds exclusively. So there is a scope for organic seed production. Whenever you first time you get the seed, it is not organic, it is from conventional farming. So that is the problem. Organic seed availability is almost zero. So this needs some impetus by the government or by the people. Raw materials obtained from organic farming can be transformed into value-added product. Some people, those who are not producing organic products, they can buy it and convert it into processed products. So that way also they can get some job at village level. So inputs like compost, vermicompost, gobar gas slurry, biopesticide, biofertilizer can be sold, can be produced and sold to the farmers. Employment in marketing of organic products is possible. Also, some people are involved in the certification processes, and crop diversification is the key for success of organic farming. I tell you, there are many practices in organic farming, but crop diversification or adoption of crop rotations is the most important strategy which must be followed on organic farm if you want to succeed. So this crop diversification means more job opportunities for the farmers. Now you see this picture of India, and here there are some areas where you get pesticide and nutrient use. So in the first case, you see the light green color. Pesticide use is less than 0.1 kg per hectare, and nutrient use is less than 50. The next darker green, less than 0.1. The pesticide use is still low, and then nutrient use increases, maybe 50 to 100. Then blue, where you get less than 0.1. So under most of the situation, pesticide use is still low. However, this fertilizer use is increasing, nutrient use is increasing. So overall, based upon these combination of pesticide use and also nutrient use, some people have classified India into different parts, where maybe first tier state, second tier state, or third tier state, or towards organic approach state. So this classification is proposed by Indian Institute of Farming System Research in 2017. So niche areas for promotion of organic farming, where you can promote organic farming, these are the areas. So sometimes scope is asked. People ask, where is the scope of organic farming in India? Yes, it is there. So we can divide India into three different parts based upon the organic production to be taken. So first tier states are Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Mizoram. Here first tier states means they got very little use of pesticide and fertilizer, and they can straightway be converted into organic states or organic farming. In these areas, conversion to organic farming is easiest. Therefore, they are first tier states. Second tier states, some people may call it tier or tire. I don't know which one is correct, but I call it tier. Second tier states, it includes, means with the uh, help of some certification agencies and little help from the government, these states are in between. They can go for organic farming, or they can also go for conventional farming. So they have both kind of opportunities, mixed kind of opportunities. Part of their land can go to organic very easily. Not whole state. Nobody is saying to convert the whole state, but part of these states can go to organic production, like Assam, Rajasthan, MP, Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, Gujarat, Karnataka, Himachal, Jammu, Kashmir, and Uttarakhand. So they are second tier states, and third tier states are difficult to convert to organic. These are difficult towards organic approach states. Means they can go for, at best, they can go for INM kind of things, integrated ICM kind of thing, integrated crop management, towards organic approach state, non-pesticide, but with chemical fertilizer promotion. It is not possible without pesticide. They can use pesticide, but integrated crop management is better option. So such states are towards organic approach states. Examples are Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, etc. So here you get almost intensive cultivation. Around the year you will find crops in the fields. And many times these crops are irrigated also. So this is towards organic states. Now, a niche crop production. So after area, just we have seen some area. Now niche crops for promotion. In what area, which crop should be promoted? Again, it is suggested by Indian Institute of Farming System Research, Modipuram, under Network Project on Organic Farming. They made this suggestion. So rain-fed region of Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka go for soybean, finger millet, durum wheat. So these are somewhat very high value crops. There is soybean or finger millet or durum wheat. So the prices of durum wheat are higher than the estimum wheat. It is expensive. And it has got some health benefits also, finger millet, etc. Hilly regions of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu Kashmir, including Northeast Hill region. So here one can promote turmeric, ginger, cauliflower, cabbage, garlic, pea, capsicum, tomato, rice, and potato, etc. In tribal areas of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, rice, durum wheat, mustard, lentils, soybean, chickpea, etc. Irrigated region of Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh, basmati rice, maize, turmeric, onion, garlic, green gram. Kerala, black pepper, ginger, turmeric. Rajasthan, Gujarat, coriander, fennel. Rain-fed region of Gujarat, cotton, etc. So this is how these crops should be promoted in these areas. Now, recently, say 6 months back or 1 year back, we got some kind of these crops were identified district-wise, I think, by the government of India. Can anyone remember that certain enterprises or something was identified for different districts at district level? Planning Commission, I think, identified crops. For example, for my home district, that is Moradabad, they identified honeybee production. I don't know how honeybee can be produced, but these are specialized areas. So do you remember that kind of thing, why it was done? Or Can anyone give some idea about that scheme? Government wanted to promote some crops or some commodities for certain districts. पढ़ते नहीं हो तुम लोग लग रहा है. You are not updated in your knowledge. So anyway, I continue. Now, after that, this was just in brief about scope and opportunities. Now, last in one of the lectures, somebody said that is organic agriculture sustainable? And people, it was not just he or she. Many people who oppose organic farming, they always say that organic farming is not sustainable because yields are low. So I have told you productivity is initially low for 5-6 years, but after that it stabilizes and it may sometimes cross the conventional yields. So there is no issue with productivity, and nobody is converting every land of India into organic. Just I have shown you some areas and some crops where we can put this organic farming into practice, but not in whole India. That is a bit confusion. Even now we have about 3.6 million hectare area in organic farming, and at best we can achieve 5 or 6 million hectare, not more than that. So your food security is not compromised. And also, instead of cursing the food security, we can save our food. See the food loss. Food loss from post-harvest to distribution in 2016, percentage by commodity groups. So this data is authentic data from International Food Policy Research Institute. And you can see about root, tubers, and oil-bearing crops, about 25% are lost after harvest. Your fruits and vegetables, roughly 21 or 22% loss. Cereals and pulses, about 8% loss. Your meat and animal products, about 12% loss, and others 10% loss. So this is in physical term. In quantity terms, that this much of product are lost after harvest. And this situation is not new, my friends. You can see in newspaper on pictures, these are very common in our country. The onion or your wheat is stored in Haryana or Punjab. This is looking to be from Punjab, and the wheat. So this is the situation in the country. We really lack storage facilities. If we can store the produced food completely, then we will need, next time we will need less area for farming. So these kind of things are very, very important. And sometime back in 2017, this Prime Minister of India, he said that agri products worth, this is in monetary term, worth rupees 1 lakh crore ruined every year due to lack of infrastructure. It was admitted right by the Prime Minister. So we lack this. Now the fourth important component or pillar of organic farming is marketing network. So I already discussed in brief about organic standards, certification, and technology package is missing. I will cover that somewhere. Technology package is also component of organic farming. Means how to produce how to produce the food or other organic items in the field. So I will touch that part later. But fourth part is marketing network. This emergent demand for organic agriculture products is both a constraint as well as opportunity for farmers, suppliers, and traders of agriculture inputs. So going into the much details, marketing of organic product, we should know the perception of people about organic products. Why some people want to buy organic products and others not. So if we want to proliferate the organic products market, then we need to study the behavior of the consumers. Why they would like to use organic product, or why others may not like to use the organic product. If we know the ideas of the people, then we can make changes in production. So because there are number of thousand studies have been made on consumers, so I just took one of them, it may not be always true, or it may not be very true. I got it from some paper, research paper. I forgot to add the reference. So you see, attributes of organic products most likely to influence consumers are from most to least. Means why, what is there in the consumer's mind. So this is health. Why they want to buy? Because consumers perceive that it will improve my health. They will be good for my health. That is why I will buy it. So most of the prefer health as the reason to buy the organic product. Then, of course, some people consider their environment also. Next, number two is environment. They think that if we eat organic product or consume organic product, then we are saving the environment. We are protecting the environment because those products are produced under the conditions where environment pollution is less and environment is protected better than the conventional farming. The third criterion is taste. Some people, of course, it is at number 3, but taste. So it tastes better. I discussed about taste. I think I forgot to discuss about the taste. So there are more than 100 studies on the taste of organic product. They are published study. And what people do, they make their studies on the rats. So rats are the most common animals where people use such studies. So what happened in one study? In one study, suppose there were two groups of rats, RAT rats, chooha. There were two groups of each comprising of 10 rats plus 10 rats. So first 10 rats were fed organic food. Say just 100 gram or 200 gram of food was given to them, which was organic. And another group was also given the same quantity of food, but it was conventional food. So the first group that finished the food much early than the second group. So why the first group finished the food early? Because the taste was good. It was inferred by the authors that the taste of the food was good. Therefore, rats finished the early. So there are many studies which prove that organic products taste better than the conventional product. Now you will ask question, why it is tasting better than the conventional food? Because under conventional food, they may have some smell of pesticide also. For example, you see today farmer is doing a spray in his vegetable crop, and tomorrow he can bring that vegetable to the market. Today you are going to buy angur or grapes from the market, and tomorrow you will eat them in your home. So if they are a conventional kind of product, then you can have some kind of a smell from the pesticides or some other items which are sprayed by the farmers. So smell or aroma is better in organic product than the conventional product. Because they are produced by natural means, the supply of nutrients is also balanced supply of nutrients in organic system. So taste of organic product is better than them. Also, I have shown you the qualitative differences. They have more dry matter, more minerals, so their taste is better. Then comes the animal welfare. In this case, I was giving you some examples that, of course, artificial insemination is permitted under organic farming of animals, but that is not very human. And also there are certain practices like milking. Milking is done by machine, so it should not be allowed in organic farming, milking by machine. So if you follow genuinely organic farming, then animal welfare issues are also there. Means animals are happy if you grow them, if you raise them by organic methods. Because in this case, you are not using antibiotics also. Antibiotics or growth hormones or certain, oxytocin. Oxytocin is used in conventional farming or conventional raising of animal. And this oxytocin will come to your milk, and it is very dangerous for children, this oxytocin, and also harmful for women, this oxytocin. So under organic, production of animal, their welfare is much better than the conventional farming. Minimal processing. So in this case, processing is not too big for organic products, and because chemicals are not added in case of processing of organic products. Only items which are allowed as per standards are used. Novelty, definitely organic products have novelty. They are unique and fashion. Some people think, okay, yeah, I am eating organic product. Or when some visitor or some guest come to their house, they will say, just friend, enjoy the organic milk. So it may, fashion may also be there. So these are 7 points based upon which the consumers buy the organic product. But there may be reasons why consumers may not be interested to buy organic product. Why I am or Dinesh Kumar will not be interested to buy organic product? Because I may consider that they are expensive, the price is high. Second, limited availability. They are interrelated. If your availability is more, your price will reduce. So they are interrelated, the high price or limited availability. Skepticism about the credibility of product claims. So a lot of mixing of product is possible, and in any country, it is not just India where adulteration of food is done. Our milk is not pure, our food is not pure, our medicines which are sold in India, 40% medicines are fake. It was admitted by government of India. Farmer who is buying pesticide, the pesticide may not be the original one. If I can adulterate the medicine which are life-saving, then adulteration of milk or any food product does not matter to me. So people are really fearless, and a lot of adulteration happens. Poor appearance may be another reason. Some people think that size of organic product is smaller. So sometimes there may not be good color development, etc. So poor appearance and non-awareness of organic, they do not know the difference or benefits of organic products, and contentment with the existing product. Whatever is available, I am happy with that. So these are 5-6 reasons why people don't want to buy organic products. Now, how to promote the input market? So as I told you before, there are two kind of market. One is input market, input products of used in organic farming. Other is output. So central government is promoting production and use of biofertilizer to make them popular, because biofertilizer is the best bet that can work better under organic farming. Government has initiated a project, national project on development and use of biofertilizer. This project is running for this purpose, and it is producing biofertilizer. Main objectives are production and distribution of biofertilizers. This is the aim of this project. Other is developing standards for different biofertilizers and quality control. Releasing of grants for setting up biofertilizer units. Training and publicity. So you can see this government is promoting this input market. There are a number of challenges in the marketing of organic products. Major problems that hinder the growth of marketing of organic products in India. Some climatic regions, soils are not suitable for organic production. So you cannot produce everywhere these organic crops or organic food. So you need to transport them from one place to another place. Use of only biofertilizer and biopesticide will considered as less yielding compared to chemical fertilizers. So usually this problem is always there, because response to biofertilizers may not be there every time. There is inconsistency in the performance of biofertilizer due to many reasons. And biopesticides may not successfully control the insect pests and diseases. So it is observed, particularly in the initial years of organic farming, people face these kind of problems. Some biofertilizer strains have limited shelf life, so they may die and they may not be effective unless some control conditions are there, because they are to be stored in some at low temperature, you need some cold storage or some kind of structure which can keep low temperature. So in farming or farmer situation, they may not have longer shelf life. About 3 years are required for a conventional farm to become an organic farm. So these are the challenges. And agricultural research institution extension services. So most of the people or most of the research work in agriculture universities or research institute is basically focused on conventional farming. They are developing varieties which are insect pest tolerant, but at the same time they are allowing the use of pesticides. So most of the research infrastructure is directed for conventional farming. So converting to organic farming is very difficult. You would not imagine that in IRI, only 1 or 2 scientists are doing research on organic farming. Myself and Dr. Y.S. Shive. So there are only 2 scientists who have experiment on organic farming since 2003. And remaining 400 or more scientists, their focus is on conventional farming. So you can see the disparity and difference in research on organic farming. Only 2-3 people out of 450 or 440 scientists. So other is changing the cropping and cultivation pattern is slow and time consuming process given the high level of illiteracy and large number of small and marginal farms. This is really a big challenge because you need to convert the crops and cropping system, which may prove a big challenge for the farmer. They need to take out new seeds, new variety. They need to learn the techniques of growing those new crops or new varieties and changing the cultivation pattern and also taking 2-3 crops as intercrops. So it becomes a bit complicated for the farmers. And also they need to maintain the records. So whatever farmers are doing at the farm, they need to maintain certain register, which is known as internal control system, ICS, internal control system. If I get chance, I wish to take one lecture on ICS, internal control system. So where farmers write their different activities, the date of sowing, the seed rate, fertilizer, whatever activities or practices they have adopted, they need to write it in a register, and those are to be signed by the inspector who will come for certification. So these kind of processes are also there, which are very challenging for the illiterate farmer who cannot write. How can he will be able to maintain the registers? So subsidy on chemical fertilizer and pesticides slow down the growth of organic agriculture. So many times farmers are asking government to give subsidy on organic agriculture. At least they are growing green manure crops, which is reducing the fertilizer use. So in that sense, government should consider some subsidy to the organic manures also, like chemical fertilizer. So these arguments are there, but there is no acceptance of such arguments by the government. And that is why area under green manure crops is declining. Just few years back, 7, 8 or 10 years back, we used to have about 9 million hectare area under green manure crops, and which may have decreased to 5 million hectare, something like that. Does anyone has idea how much green manuring area we have in India? How much area under green manure crops in India?
No idea.
No idea. So just keep it between 5 to 6 million hectare. Those who want to see the exact area under green manure crops, you can consult Fertilizer Statistics. Fertilizer Statistics is a good publication, and some of you should have it. If you want to see data, all India data on crops, crop production, state-wise area, productivity, data on fertilizer, data on irrigation, any other inputs. So you can see the publication Fertilizer Statistics. Otherwise, you can go to indiastat.com. There are some websites or some online data is also available. Indiastat.com. But you need to make payment to fetch the data. Organic produce market, just few more slides. And this was talking about inputs. Now see output, expanding continuously organic produce market, but at a slow pace in India. Some farmers selling their organic products directly to the consumers. Most of the marketing of organic products is not well organized. That is the problem. There are certain limitations in the expansion of organic market. So definitely this is a big challenge, organic produce market. Our farmers have difficulty with the marketing of the conventional product also. And you know the recent story or recent thing, government has brought three farmers bill or mandi bill, this bill and that bill. Variety of bills are there, and large number of farmers are not happy. Some may be happy, but large number of farmers are not happy with these three bills. They may be good, they may be bad, I don't know. But one thing I know that in any case, farmers are not going to get the good prices of their products. That is for sure. Today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow or maybe next 10 years, farmers will remain like this. They do not have any bargaining power. They cannot fix the price of their commodity like other people can fix. In the market, you go to buy a simple pan, they will write 10 rupees. And farmer is selling his sugar cane or his wheat or any crop. He cannot write MRPO or MRPO on his products. And nobody will, so farmers do not have bargaining powers. So same story is repeated in the marketing of organic product. Same kind of problems are faced by farmers in organic products. Otherwise, area could have increased largely. Large area could have been increased under organic farming. So there are number of models for organic product marketing. First model is that farmers who are intelligent farmers, they can straightway contact the consumer. They can go to the consumer and then they can tell to the consumer, they can go door to door and meet people and tell about their product. I will give you my organic product. You can visit my farm. Let us come and see my farm. I'm producing so things. Or alternatively, this consumer, he can invite the consumers to visit his farm. They can go there and they can get the product what they want. So I know some farmers in and around Delhi area. Those farmers are inviting the consumers and consumers are visiting their farms and they are buying directly from there. For 1 month, how much of oil will be required? That farmer has installed one oil extraction machine also, and some masalas or some spices he is growing, and he will make a package of, he will give you haldi or he will give you oil and many things of daily use used by consumers. So he will make a package and charge good money. So this is number two model, that you bring your customers to the field or you go to the customers or consumers home. These are two models. Third model could be farm shopping. Farm shopping means you have one tourist attraction. Now many times this farming or horticulture, vegetable growing or spices or certain medicine plant growing in one place, and they also have some kind of restaurants. So this is a business model. Many people in and around Shimla or around your Ramnagar, Nainital, or in some hilly areas, they are having farm shopping concept. So they make restaurants, they make some places for the meeting also. In the month of summer, April, May, June, some businessmen or some industrial people, they like to make changes. So they change their workplace and they go to, they stay in hill stations, and there in that particular restaurant or particular resort, you call it resort, in that resort they will get sufficient space for their meetings, for seminars, symposia, and same hotel or resort they will stay, they will get food, and then how they can get the food of their choice, because this resort is growing vegetables, fruits, and some other kind of food items. So these customers or these clients, They will go to their farm, and they will pick up the fruits or vegetables of their choice. They will bring to the kitchen, and they will feel happy. And for this happiness, these resort people will charge them some money. So this is kind of farm shopping. You are directly buying or purchasing the things from the farm. So this concept is emerging. So there are certain limitations in the, and there are many more models. One model could be that you'll find in the malls. In the malls, you will find some sections of organic product. Those malls which are big in size, they make a section for organic products, an isolated area, different place in mall, and you can go and shop there. And there may be some people sitting in Shimla or some people sitting in Delhi. He will make order in Himachal Pradesh that I need organic apple. He's not growing. The other person is also not growing. He will just ask a person in Shimla, okay, I need so much of apples, organic apples. So that person will send organic apple to Delhi, and everything is online, your payment, your orders, this and that. And that way he will distribute, he will bring to Delhi, and now you know how this online shopping is going on in India. It is growing very fast, and it includes your food products also. People sitting in Pune, they are selling their grapes and papaya in Delhi, online shopping. And I came to know that within 6-8 hours, you can get supply so fast. Maybe they are having their stores in all the cities, and they have this chain of products. So a lot of inventions or innovations are happening in the market, and organic product are getting some place in that kind of online shopping also. So there are a variety of models marketing your organic products, and so on. And branding is also important. These days, people are branding their products. You see this Patanjali. Patanjali claims that his products are mostly organic ghee, organic doodh, and they are free from pesticides, such kind of claims. And they are not certified actually. These products are not certified. And what this Patanjali is doing, he is buying all kind of products, whether it is conventional or organic. There is no segregation at all. They are buying everything and selling in the market. So it is taking just advantage of the name, advantage of the brand, because Patanjali has got some reputation, especially among the middle class or lower middle class or some kind of people in upper class also. So uh, these kind of things are also happening. Some people just, they have developed one brand, and based upon brand, they just take product from other people and then they sell it. So overall, limitations in the expansion of organic market, lack of information about organic market, marketing network specifically for organic product has not been developed. Quality of Indian food industry is always a constraint. High levels of transaction cost for getting farm certified. So certification cost is also high. Limited interest of the government, though the activities from the government. So government is showing some interest, but you know, most of the government schemes and plans, implementation part is lacking. So that is where problem lies. Lack of proper infrastructure in terms of road or storage or transportation, it is always there. It is true for conventional products also. Indian organic agriculture is very fragmented, and there are no organization for managing the entire value chain of organic products. So it needs to change several hands. What can be done? Strategies for efficient marketing. Organic products must be certified in compliance to the international standard. Then it will increase our import. A strong government policy support is needed. Companies involved with organic farmers need to be extremely effective. Formation of farmers organization, farmer producer organization. Strategies for efficient marketing, how best you can market. So most of these things are applicable to conventional product also, like pricing. The retail price premiums remain considerably higher. So we need to reduce little bit this pricing of organic product if we want to make them popular among all the people. Visibility, varying habitual pattern and developing new shopping habits is strongly influence most of food purchasing. Visibility here means one should go for advertisement, good packaging and things. Labeling, inadequate labeling is also important. So here one need to put some labels. Just you go to the market and you will find that they put very small chit on the apple or some other foods. Every food, they will put some plastic kind of chit. So consumer think they are good, something like that. Some innovations are required in labeling. Availability, we need to increase the availability to reduce the price. So strategies for efficient marketing should be there, pricing, visibility, labeling. And what is latest in the marketing, what has been done by the government of India. So they have launched sometime 2 years back one Jaivik Kheti portal has also been created for promotion and sale of organic produce to connect farmers involved in organic farming with consumers. So this may be your practical also today. You can go to this website and see what is happening. So you can see here in the menu here on the picture about us, e-bazaar, crops. So it is exclusively for organic crops. What are the crops? Who is buyer? Who is seller? Grievances, input suppliers, contact. So what is happening? Everything is automatic and online here. Suppose I am a seller. I want to sell my product. I will put the details of my product, that this is my number, and I need to put the proofs that it is certified product. I need to upload the certificate, the quantity of the product, and I need to mention my rate, that I want to sell this particular product at this much of rate per kg. Then there may be many sellers like this. There will be long list of sellers selling different items and different quantities also. You need to mention quantity, that so much of quantity is available with me. So you need to specify the quantity also, and certificate and some other things you need to complete here. And similarly buyers. Then buyers are also there. They can straightway contact the seller online, and payment is possible, online payment or payment through check. There are different means, and supply is ensured. So this is how the government is helping to promote the marketing of organic products. So you can see this website today, www.jaivikkheti.in. And finally, constraints. There is shortage of organic seed. I discussed this. Lack of efficient marketing system. We have just seen marketing system is important constraint. Lower crop yields in some cases. Low income during transition in the 3 years. First 3 years, your product is not organic, so you get low income. Non-availability of premium prices of organic product. And for common farmers, lack of technology package. We will see how much we have achieved and what more needs to be achieved. Limited availability of organic manures and biofertilizers. Complexities in certification processes. Weak linkage among the organic organizations. Lack of infrastructure and high cost of certain inputs. High cost of certain inputs like your manures, you got high cost. So similarly, sometimes people ask what are the constraints in adoption of organic farming. So you can remember these constraints. Some constraints are related to inputs and some are related to outputs. Input cost is high, inputs are not available in time, or output is not sold at right price, no marketing, this and that. So you can remember certain points related to constraints of organic farming in India. And these are the slides which conclude everything related to organic farming. Just try to understand the meaning of this plus, zero, and minus. So, so on the left side, you see OF performs. It means organic farming performs much better. If you get 2 signs of plus, that means organic farming has done much better than the conventional farming. 1 plus means better than conventional farming. 0 means organic farming and conventional farming have similar effect. Worse means organic farming is worse and conventional farming is better. And organic farming is much worse if you get 2 minus. So this is the best review I found on organic farming. So you can see the first column, agronomic performance, productivity as yield per hectare. So productivity can be better in organic farming, can be the same, can be worse and can be much worse. 2 minus sign. Productivity as yield per hour. It is minus minus minus. Now see biodiversity. Crop diversity is 2 plus, means much better in organic system, and sometimes it can be just better and sometimes there may not be difference. So overall you can see organic farming has very good effect on crop diversity. Similarly floral diversity, it is always plus plus plus. So I think you got the meaning of this, and this table summarizes the whole things about organic farming. For example, soil biology, microbial biomass plus plus plus, all are plus plus plus. In soil biology, you see everything is positive in organic farming over conventional farming. And see the ground and surface water, this is plus plus plus. See all these, most of the time you get plus plus plus, few minuses are there. So this is all, and now your questions are welcome.